welcome to the Brooklyn Rails Wednesday poetry reading series. Today's reading, which is the 121st reading out of this series, is curated by Daniel Owen, and it's called If It Were to Be the Same Degree of Spoken. Daniel will be reading along with Kimberly Alidio, Corina Copp, Mikael, Johani, and Violet Spurlock. I will introduce Kimberly, who'll be reading first in just a minute. This is also the 742nd episode of the new Broken Social Contract Environment. My name is Anselm Bergen. I'm host of the this poetry side of the series, and also the poetry editor for the Rail. There's a new issue. The February issue is just up in the last few days, so please take a look if you can. There will be information on the Rail, and in particular on the various endeavors and publications of the poets that'll be showing up in the chat. So take a look at that as things scroll along. Hey, Corey. Nice to see you. Is there anything else that I'm supposed to say? I've left my script at the drugstore. Sorry. Kimberly Alidio is going to read first. Kimberly is the author of 4 books of poetry, including Teeter, a winner of the Nightboat Poetry Prize, which will be published this August. She lives on Munsee-Mohican lands along the Mahicannituck River, otherwise known as New York's Upper Hudson Valley. Please welcome Kimberly to the Rail reading series.
Hey, everyone. So lovely to be here. Thank you so much, Dan. It's really a surprise and a pleasure to be included and to be able to connect. And I'm happy to start things off, a little daunted. I'm really looking forward to this reading. I'm going to read 2 pieces, and I'm going to start with one from Teeter. And let's see, it has quotations from Fred Moten, Alison Grimaldi Donahue, and N.H. Pritchard's Geyer Galax, both the sound and text versions. Of listening to Led Zeppelin and day drinking, running into the same problem of tracking flows and listening. The book versus all other delivery systems keeps flipping hierarchies, whereas a sound engineered or raw unproduced performance document crawls across platforms and menus. So I navigate lists on Bandcamp, Spotify, YouTube, Ubu Web, and Canopy. A melody contour repeats precisely into its own transformation. Inhale, a through beneath, the 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 through beneath lit. At first, sound variegated through beneath lit stresses the first word, then sort of pushes together the last 2. Beneath lit is a portmanteau. The variation splits apart the push together words, seeming to rush syllables. Above, beneath lit, above, beneath lit, above, beneath, 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 lit. A writing, a recording of vocal signals into sign, shorthand, waveform, deviations etched as deviations. A recording of recording. Choreophonography of both Greek and uncertain origin, both dance and voice, a rejoicing of dancers and voices under constraint, both improvised and black chant. Translation turns literature into an ephemeral experience, situating it close to music or dance in time. The pitch intonation beneath lit can't be scored the way I transcribe my hearing. A vocal rigor and recording pops. Can you hear it? And then I'm going to read a longer prose piece from a new work. And this is called Room Tone. Through the open door and down the hallway, I hear a text-to-speech voice, American English, female, along with my mother's Filipino English, female, reciting a text on the widescreen TV. My mother prays a novena by following a YouTube video. In my room, I view on my laptop the second hour of a sound art piece featuring a repetitive sequence of recorded speech. The litanies are simultaneous and adjacent. I listen to both rooms because I know when the novena is finished, I will kiss my mother goodnight. I get a holiday email from the Criterion channel inviting me to watch a video compilation of the past year's camera interviewees sitting in silence while a camera crew records a minute of room tone. I too sit in silence for 60 seconds following a poetry reading Stacy Samazic records at the local NPR station for the Poetry Foundation's podcast. I listen in search of whatever is being recorded and stiffen in fear of interfering with whatever is being recorded. Several commenters on the Criterion blog request a version of the video without accompanying music so they too can hear the room. The brain, I read on the internet, filters out ambient sounds of room resonances, but we want a sound wave to bounce in a certain way or be absorbed in a certain way because each gives us crucial data. A reflection tells us the surface is hard and not porous enough to take in light or sound. What breaks through inattention is absurdist information. For example, the walls, ceiling, and floor are spongy dead zones, while the upholstered sofa is echoey. If voices aren't raised or strained enough on a recording of two people conversing from different rooms of a house, we don't believe the intimate contours of dialogue. Is there some device closing in the distance and cutting across rooms' various hums and reverbs, our brain might ask, or a clumsy mix of speech from different places and times? When room ambience stops being background, it begins to signify something relative to our sense of survival and precarity, which is perhaps our primal narrative. It is a sign grieving people might look for, or look for a way out of, in the ordinary. Before ever hearing the phrase room tone, I encounter Adobe Audition's reverb effects simulating acoustic spaces. I try each effect on a sound file. Mourning doves inside an amphitheater, a church, a coat closet, a concert hall, in the club downstairs, an empty living room, a large bathroom, outside the club, in a tiled bathroom, in a warm room. A room whose acoustics interacted. Marianne Amache has studios at MIT in Kingston, NY, whose room acoustics interacted with the sonic frequencies of a pier in Boston Harbor, where she'd install a microphone and set up a live transmission feed. I make a poem from one of her interviews. I realized I begin to live in this tone. Criterion's interviewees remain seated in front of rolling cameras as room tone is recorded for 1 minute. No longer having to perform, their gaze falls. The 90 participants in Issue Project Room's marathon restaging of Alvin Lucier's I Am Sitting in a Room sit in concentration, listening to room tone take over their speaking voice in successive recorded playbacks of their recitation of Alvin Lucier's 105-word text that begins, I am sitting in a room different from the one you're in now. The sound art piece is relevant here, and I sit here trying to sense the shape of its relevance. By repeating the sequence of recording speech in a room and playing the recording back into the same room while recording the playback, the room's acoustical structure increasingly resonates whatever sonic frequencies it has in common with the speech recordings and increasingly downplays others. Sonic pauses and phonemic borders blur. I think of asemic writing. The word asemic has one origin in Roland Barthes' reference to the visual space between words. This space makes it possible for words to be read, so it contributes to semantic meaning, but doesn't convey meaning itself. The units and connectors collapse in one sense, and I feel them expand too into a field of orientation. Amanda Lucier sits in a home studio, a stereo unit in the background, at a desk with a microphone, and speaks her father's text in a conversational style. At one moment, she closes her eyes. There is something about seeing her unmoving form while her vocal frequencies narrow and start to ring in rhythm. I watch her open her eyes in curiosity once the tonal pattern is more or less established. The camera focuses zoom style on the performer's upper torso and bust, each in their own room. To watch the 3 long videos on Issue Project Room's website is to hear the tones of 90 different rooms. It is also to watch 90 people listening to their speaking voices being transformed into tones. Abigail Levine sits in an emptied, clean warehouse or garage on a chair at a standing microphone and speaks with formal enunciation. While Amanda Lucier's recording goes through at least 10 passes until her speech becomes more tonal than semantic, Abigail Levine's voice reverbs significantly on the 3rd playback. Low frequencies begin to ring or reverberate. Something like a storefront security door slowly rolls up and down, and a car horn blares intermittently. On the 4th playback, her speech smooths into a drone, and a truck in reverse emits high-pitched beeps. On the 5th playback, Abigail Levine closes her eyes and becomes very still. Akiko Hatakeyama reads Alvin Lucier's text from a book on a couch next to a lit fireplace, no microphone, a slow and formally literary reading style. Wood crackles at the end of her initial recording, dry, low, again distant. The ringing is like static above the vocal, which gets quieter and quieter. There's a kind of bass rumbling, a pattern of low frequencies. Words have nearly disappeared. This offers somewhat of a contrast and somewhat of a complement to the sonic muffling. The living room begins to resemble a subway train with a commuter ignoring city noise to read a book. A loud crack from the fireplace startles her. She sits up to look into it with a general emphasis of a silent film actor. Aki Takahashi sits in a home studio, framed prints and photographs on the close wall behind her at a table, no microphone, speaks carefully with Japanese language, intonation, and pronunciation. The room gives her words an echoic drag. She's very still in her facial expression and body. Her eyes begin to relax, but remain alert and open as her words begin to sound more distant. The sound isn't tinny, but a thicker metallic. The durational quality is enhanced by the stillness of her face while the sounds shift. Over time, I fall in love with her, as if we are staring into one another's eyes for almost 10 minutes. Tonality becomes more prominent, but either through memory or listening, her speech remains clear. Then the intonation or melody contour flattens a bit and fades. Toward the end of the utterance, ring, ring, ring. Aki Takahashi maintains a curious alertness, eyes wide open, eyebrows slightly raised, a slight smile. Tones muddle, overlap, and make what could be secondary and tertiary resonances. The message feels far away. Because the utterance has a distinct prosody, its dissolution feels alive. Her facial expression conveys a bit more delight. In ringing resonance, sentences enter the microphases of matter, a mass of sliding particles, a possibility of charged fields, a pairing, a hopping, a forced bonding in decay, a strange kind, a phony mass, a kind of drag and hookup, a zero resistance, a hyper rigidity, a disordered spinning, a closed loop, a crystallized time space, a high energy autonomy, a speculative phase, a cold state. Online, I read, words become unrecognizable, while other attributes like rhythm, cadence, and syntax persist in translucent states of a music no one could have imagined. Language is neither itself, nor music, nor noise. Repetition makes recognition unnecessary because the phrase has become both inside and outside. As ambient resonance overtakes the speaking voice, spatial harmonizing transforms the speech's semantic meaning, which represents the first person I. Through resonant feedback, this deictic center blurs into the background as the background comes into focus. And in transforming, the phrases enact a promise. We experience a performance of the sentence's matter and form. The room speaks in the filtered process speech of a recorded speaker. The center speaker of the sentence passes back and forth. I am sitting in a room, writing this as a means of recording, then playing back the recording to record the playback successively until what's significant liquefies, vaporizes, congeals, and liquefies. I regard this activity not so much as derivative of Alvin Lucier's sound art or as destructive to any semblance of exposition, but more as a way for a sound art piece of film or a rectangle of afternoon sun to reinforce certain resonant frequencies of my sensing and to downplay others. What gets subtracted is a prose of explanation, both descriptive and theoretical, from dimensions of absence. To ring a soup bowl with a spoon, to clap my hands upon entering a room for the first time. Thank you very much.
So we're going to move from the LA morning to the even earlier Jakarta morning and welcome Mikael Johani to the series. Mikael's first book of poetry, We Are Nowhere and It's Wow, was published by Post Press. His poems, translations, and essays were published in To Let the Light In, Poems by Sunday, the Poetry Project newsletter, the Book of Jakarta, Untitled 3, On Relationships, Asymptote, the Johannesburg Review of Books, Ajar, Vice, Kerja Tangan, Pop Theory, and others. He was a writer in residence in the Writers Immersion and Cultural Exchange Program in 2022 and lives in Jakarta, Indonesia, where he organizes the monthly spoken word night Pavilion Puisi, if I'm pronouncing that right. Please welcome Mikael Johani to the Rail reading series.
Thanks so much, Anselm. Thank you, Dan and the Brooklyn Rail for the time. I'm going to read a series of poems, and then at the end, maybe I'll play some sounds, I guess, some beats, which hopefully will annoy the neighbors at 1:30 in the morning. So, all right. Ranseru. Punya ransel. Ada rando seru. Tinggal banyak. Seru deh, ih. I'm being ironic. I'm being R&B. So are you. Sore itu kolam renang. Menelan harga diri aja lo nggak tahu. Menelan harga apalagi. Masih tinggal dikit lagi. Pagi itu lagi. Pagi yang lift. Pagi yang Rubens. Pagi yang Ruben. Hand that's dealt. Who? Kadang jadi goyah keyakinan. Completely prostate. Aku tahu kok. Nyadar. Just want to see how far it will go. Kemudian menyadari. Udah nggak nyaman. Lama sebelum akhirnya nggak tahan. Bukan sih, akhirnya tuh nggak kadang-kadang. Kak, dang, kayak eczema. Ya kasih salep kalau cocok-cocokan. You don't like me asking you if you'd like it, if I do it, daripada, daripada. Aku perlu sesuatu yang found, probably just wrong number, bangers and pash. Masih? Bentar lagi pecah, Mas. Kayaknya. Rapot-repot. Moms create avalanches, expectations, child goodhood in extremis. A pond, a lake, a river flowing upwards. No more shitbox. A whole nation catering to whims, roll call, multivitamins, no Red Bull. I want to get us out to a savanna, a burning star, the tip of your shoulder, cops. One afternoon before the war, for Henry Rollins. I see what you got in your hands, an afternoon in the world of land, a sealed blue radio. The night returns for an encore inside tomb. Pray for finesse on the branch of the arboreal, strip it, sing it, fake it, come wing it into the river. Note down 3 pigeons dive under the sun, acquiesce to spring. And for a second, the soy-feathered pigeons resemble Earth after a quake, the agit props of legendary risk, a universe under another. Approaching death, I climb the electric stairs to a gilded meditation room in the sacred temple at Westlake. In the year 1058 before Christian Bale, men were born with swarthy incisors and identikit jawlines. They roam around waterholes and at the tops of waterfalls, inhaling the miasma like crazy. In the darkness of the full moon, spring blossoms like butterless popcorns. Un poète fantastique scoured his temple for an analgesic. Janice whispers, make a big deal with a girl that can't bleed. Make a fig deal with a world that can't sleep. Fake a done deal with a pearl 10 foot deep. Cake a done deal with a surly 10-foot sheep. Make a bum deal with a twinkle-toed catnip. Shake a crumb veal, read a book in your sleep. Greg a must kill, sit a soup in his crib. Brag of your seal and a rook in a tip. Shack a no deal, shine a crook in a bit. Shack has no feel for a juke in the shit. William, it was really something. William, William, it was really nothing. William, William, it really was nothing. William, William, it was nothing really. William, William, really, it was nothing. William, William, was it really nothing? William, William, really, was it nothing? Culture stencil. After a great pooling, unspooling of energy, the room tried to contain Rupal, is it? Let the music play in hyper slow-mo. Let no music play but the afternoon light, propeller blades bouncing off each other. Face, 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 face. I live where? Listen to intelligent, oversmart, obtuse dance music. What do you do exactly when you reappropriate the ancients? After a great pooling, unspooling of energy, a hand gesture there, a stalking posture there, the neon lights balk at mating calls. Listen to the pitry-patry sound of propeller blades breaking off a crankshaft. The last of them. Rarefied the air, rarefied the pale green star fruits, slaying the house down boots. Thank you.
Thanks, Mikael. Thanks so much. Thanks for staying up. Next, we're going to hear from Daniel Owen, who has put this reading together. And I'll repeat the title he gave it, If We Were to Be the Same Degree of Spoken. Daniel's recent publications include Selingak Selinguk from Ton Kinira in 2021, Up in the Empty Fairies from Third Floor Apartment Press, and Points of Aperture, which is part of a Do chapbook with Jennifer Soong's When I Ask My Friend from Double Cross Press. And those are all actually from 2021. His translations from Indonesian include Afrizal Malna's document Shredding Museum from Reading Sideways Press in 2019. He edits and designs books and mysteriously participates in many processes of the Ugly Duckling Press editorial collective. Please welcome Daniel Owen.
Hi, thanks Anselm, and thanks everyone at the Brooklyn Rail for inviting me to curate this reading and for putting it on and doing everything. And thanks to Kimberly and Corey and Mikael and Violet for all coming to read. It's so nice to read with you all and hear you all and hang out in the in this, what do you call it? New social environment, the broken social environment, circle scene together. It's funny because you can just keep talking and there's like no response if you're not looking at the screens. So it's self-annoying, but with all these other people kind of listening to you talking to yourself, which I'm just realizing now because I keep talking instead of reading the poems I'm supposed to read. So I'm going to do that now. Some new poems, some old poems, and some ones that are neither. A copy of my mind. Where in the names of history would useless trees be written? Useless birds, Pied Pipers, pomelo rinds. A shopping list is both its negative and positive minds. An instinctive film on which amoebas fuck. Be serious with your stakes, says ghost of speaking to ghost of the edifice that burns lands now called Americas. Those ghosts will sing and singe the rotten core to the earth, will paste and shout. Don't use my story in your permissions like that. Mystery of curtains, veils, the burning plains beyond. Listlesses in other states of antbit. Other clouds touched into the mouths of accepting child death, poison donuts, no ozone. As if any bean could be planted, as if oceans heard you. Poem on California, Zounds of love and error. Process intervened in the alley. There's no words for sudden nor complete in this light, because nothing feels final here. Stop talking about time and mixed company. Talk about distances and eggs, and errors of judgment, measurement, doubles and their shadows, doppelganger blues and W hues. There are better historians in a fistful of gray brain than the bargain I've got for you. Stop talking in time about mixed company. The process got all wrong, stabbed sunlight where birds and flora would go. Which part of which timeline? Some assembly required the bare bones. A skeleton's fate, a skeleton's fate, a skeleton's cleavage, and a roller skate. Though we have no home in this world nor the next, we have no none in the one after that. To think that we met in years and days, to think the when of it, to think of it. No place in a poem for caution or care or cure, but when you can take the work with you, who gives a shit? When you can take the world with you, the wonk and word of it, smuggling up all nice and sweet to the object, which is to be a dragon and then be a princess at the same time. Sipping hot chocolate with marshmallows and a warm hat. Waiting. We are no longer in the borrowed graves and go for broke on an offer. Tomorrow was a boom day, and any ash created is also talk of my old friends in the broad bay sunlight. Berkeley, November 17, 2023. Regret it or fed it. Speech offers its negative. In action, etc., in versa and dejecta, and in sway. They offered us vice for our spackle. and all the world is need of a finger. It's impossible to spell the world bureaucracy. Driver absent of seat, absent of scent, with stents put in for survival. Waves at a baby on the subway the way a perfectly natural heart beats and beats until it stops. All the schlepping it takes to will a body into society. Anxieties and greetings bake into your pores. Limitless, seemingly hungry energy for not being seen. Not at the helm of a street, at any rate. Nor a wheel, nor a momo. Certainly not a retreat. A shibboleth said in private. The glare of bright lights when you're longing for dark corners. Am I now an echo? Or something more assemblable, informable, informed on? A babble, a bauble, a bubble, a bubby, a thimble in a basket, sent a care package, misbegotten memory signed Mothers of Mercy, and meant too. Those questions that can't be taken off like a towel, nor like a tunnel, nor one of those soft, shiny curtains that veil the door behind the door behind the door behind the prize. More like a terry cloth robe, per se. Would a song suffice for a solid? A peek at the wilderness. Some die, some aren't born, some react between chemicals. Some seam, some salt, some stuff watered. Mirrors, beads, games, bubbles, misshapen edges, dumb lumps, lucky dogs. Doggone Lokes Moax chilling in Tony's fridge in the tropics. A Caesar salad in quotes. Spent breath condenses on a wet, cold glass, imitating a Geiger counter, or learning how to love the blown wind and to stop whining and whined. Does my face look like a TV or something? Then why are you talking to it like one, or two, or a whole battery of them, stacked up like a human pyramid, learning to write with your thumbs, learning to let it go and operate at its own pace, a schedule, a cease and desist, a case of liquid, learning to operate a weapon with your thumbs, bitter pill, bitter seed, broke down jalopy, crazy for acres, for sale, for labor, crazy about an ear, an insert here in California. Rejoice in the order of reception. Knocking on names for admission to the club of ears. I will submit the morning news to the day. The years in binary desert the bright melancholic bird that lifts this hour into information. It can no longer hear the parsable birth. When I sleep, it will be in the service of disarticulation, lonely as a sign and with equal ardor. I will see you on the street with no context and proceed in place of weeping. New Year's Eve. What is a year? Damned if I know. An elephant and a rhino? Do things? Rain, water, lovage, extractions, edible or skeletal matter, and their chitter chatter go in it, or through, or on, or wrap it all up, spiderweb bow bondage, warp and weft? After months of drought, it won't stop raining. Is this what a day is? Floppy paperback wedged open on a table, spine ruined. And the grass has never been greener, it seems, nor the forgotten leaves more rotten. And this is the last poem that I'll read. Shared Witless. To know a city is to lie in its rooms, to feel the light through its windows or their lack. I listen to the blur of motors like a core. A single static organ slowly swallows its lining. Unbearable plenty of a moment ignored. Stitched together with the rest as black mold spreads across the ceiling and the concrete walls time and rain wear lines into as if mocking invention. Volumes and redundancies are all around. Inherit their eyes as mine. The heft of a gardener's scythe, a mother's ladle stirring something set to boil. Wartime is held in all the new walls too, and their pores, their construction blank as a sunset, save for the hands that pour them. You could almost forget it if you have to, as though a dim glow that says hello to the unbidden is all we're after. We die young, empty of news, or else keep going through the era's noise, respectively. Either way, are we so different? Feeling around in the dark of given silhouettes for a face or effacement, nations of lovers, of forgetters, sensation or sentence, something, sentience, to pull up from the ground for evidence. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. And our last reader is going to be Violet Spurlock. Violet is the author of Alloyed Bliss, published by Eyelid in 2021, and Verses, which looks like VS from Gauss PDF, also in 2021. Her first full-length book, In Lieu of Solutions, won the Other Futures Award and is forthcoming from Future Poem. Please welcome Violet back to the Brooklyn Rail Reading Series.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me, Dan. Thanks for everyone at the Rail keeping this series alive for so long. And I was excited to learn earlier that it will be going on for at least another year and a half. And what beautiful readings, Corey, Kimberly, and Mikael. I feel like there was such a strong through line, actually, and it was beautiful to discover that. And I'm hoping I can keep that going. I'm going to read a section from the book In Lieu of Solutions. It is called The Unseduced. It's rather a drag having two birthdays. The first one seems incomplete, the second artificial. Chronologically, the one earlier in the year seems to have a certain priority, but in practice, it depends on current company. Some prefer to wait for a bend in the road. Some think the destination is already set. Any semi-rural river area can transport you to a camera memory. Those with multiple birthdays easily mistake our world for another's, or maybe it's not a mistake. In our world, such occasions might be celebrated differently. Parties are best when agglomerated, but birthdays seem to want to become discreet and solitary once you let them. One birth can be a private event, a pristine truth, flickering for the single instant it takes you to understand it, then disappearing into the night sky. Another bursts with such raw facticity that the only words which surround it are formalities. There is more choice in these matters than is advertised. A distinct emergence always bends our perception of time, and yet it only becomes noteworthy when there is enough screaming. A young something or other, the girls found and pinned me on the sandy carpets of a vanishing hallway. Their tweezers floated and stung between my regions, condensing my eyes into dark clouds of injured pride. Secretly, my love was blooming in the shrill fog. Some of its sheddings landed on me. I felt their prodding through a vellum that blurred the line between victim and crush. Red blotches spelled my limits and possibilities, a tunic draped however it is allowed. A removal fetish proliferated among the fecund critics who dreamed of amputating their own fruits. In an airier room, a sexier year, the cast-offs would be wrapped up in a mesh reverie. I turn off the lights to make peace with fog walls I can't traverse. Only external indicators can give me any capacity. A living, if earned, becomes a privilege. Even if you have it, it's been rendered inessential and thereby weaponized. Intrinsic value only lives in scrapped drafts, little pleas, which invite men to get all snivelly. Oh, anything but that. I'd rather be sworn to oblivion. I felt a new kind of naked in front of my friend sneaking me fruit for free in full sunlight and wrapped in anonymizing puffy pouches of feathers when paying nothing for a visit to the bike doctor. The mystery is my unchanging outfit. My ethics are so easily swamped facing this immaculate bedroom you carry with you everywhere. I worry nobody outside this town could ever believe my name is my name. My lips open in concert with your lips. Without synchronization, I can only fondle plastic ferns in a waiting room so chaste it adds another sweater to my dejected receding question, who has the time? I invented chronological residue to give my envy a jelly form. Love's lilting tears blessed the pleasure desert. The key at the book's end was not incomplete enough, every answer obvious or worse, weightless. The letters would be better off smudged into indistinct angel wings. If their sleep is taxed, inattention poses flesh tests ending glum and sticky. I'm offering an extra imprint. My upwardly mobile pastry, with its powdered and slivered water gluttons, validates the permit of all loungers. Other animals give us license to interact. Free speech tricks the speaker into laughing off the physical toll. It always starts inside you. Like a lucky sucker, I fail to utilize my dental privileges. Blood swells serve to remind me. Not enough thinking with your nipples. Backdoor bias makes all our ennui go round. This is nice, Grandma. Unbelievable dialogue meaninglessly accompanying the baton was how we learned not being a cop is more important than being human. Because my friend slept, I lived indulgently. Whether it felt good was an accident. The man in my house was pulling off his face, saying they weren't all men at the gym. My edgewise word was about my father, inevitably. Sad to hear about her gender being stolen recently. My body accrues time and loses it at the same rate. Sometimes, when a festival arrives, I realize all at once that I haven't acquired much evidence to prove that I exist, that I can sit in front of the artists, that I do speak sexual languages, that obvious things deserve at least an afternoon's puzzling, and my confusion is not unbecoming. Whistling and nosy, I toil alongside suspect peers. The vying of the wind is the only indication of this building's shape. Open music leaves my rectum aching to expand, yet there is no cause over-determining my mind, except perhaps a few dots of blue paint which snuck their way into my afternoon tea. The image I am forbidden, since desire and horror fall into the same void when confronted with it, is still privately parroted and perhaps indifferent to my awareness of it. I want to hear the luxury of wet hems splashing. My wallet sinks for a custom neckline. All this old wavering wood beckons me to forgive the drunken trespasses of beauty's orphans. Too clean to be trustworthy, my hair gets away from my steady slopes. A baby of dreams, gentle, beautiful, well-behaved, explores an imaginary room, adding undefined space to its corners, which it then pollutes. Shall I add that a person is now generally agreed to be other than a bundle in our era of ruthless examination, since suitable string can no longer be found? Futures Watcher remains determined in the last instance. Change leaves us in slow seeking, as if on a collapsible bridge. choking down wooden bubbles in the gasp economy. I place half my trinkets at the altar of language's declarative power. What is sacrifice when a universal metric of value credibly looms over every dead or living object? Child takeover making a mockery of stipend rent reversibility. 5 years, 5 figures, and effortless beauty arrives in time for it to no longer be my dream. Just waiting for the next birthday to steamroll you while gossip pours from pink houses and every car is itching to kill. Mochi ice cream on mini veranda, like wake me up when you figure it out. The whole not ending up in a bunker thing. Remember when smoke used to get you high? Now we just try to recall the simulation at the art fair because we could go get food afterwards. Since the sound of plastic crinkling has become metonymy for feeding time, aggregate data tames my body. I inflate dreams and make myself a laughingstock trying to ride them. God and his gun watch over dad and his fun. Seersucker seduction and the quiet deployment of nuance to contain words from rearing their meanings. They were clean and sweet because time proved their center. Betting on McDonald's breakfast and guaranteed luxury mush. I'm attracted to great amounts of effort, undergirding tiny beliefs with unimpeachable limits. Because we don't need to discern the flatter path, what with our hale knees. I'm a few crises away from cherishing these mundane drainages. Non-specific warnings flow into samey compliments, adding up to solipsism baubles, filling an overstuffed house, lusting after all the nearby dumpsters. I had thought I'd wait until you weren't looking, but this camera's infinite patience carries my death on a platter and serves my half-hearted rage right alongside the miracle berries. Crowd pleasers. Spherical violence factories sharpened the noise. A perfect form and its curious but necessary aesthetic flub. There was no non-green part of the unthinkingly generous lake, whose gnats paid a natural rent, if any at all. I cast yellow skies out of mind into a distant purple web page I had my mother refresh. My breath remains an unreliable test. If an automated bottleneck becomes time's primary vessel, even rest may appear embarrassing. One cause for concern was coming to believe there was no need for problems. Fear of the stomach substitute sent the mind back to its room, which was furnished for a safer pleasure. Keeping the speed cube between the lines gave me reason to keep my eyes open until we hit dirt. What a wish becomes when full of socialized mirrors and tragic caveats, this wish, languishing, in line with epidemiological trend, feeds upon itself or cloth masses. Articulated in a photo sequence, all permutations of hair and fat. On whichever swatch lands your wish is your chosen fate. A cabin, a river, a man, relegated to absurd past, represented by incongruent co-presence of dense fur lining a pair of cheery tits. This photo lies in the future anterior, declaiming this will have been your body, both conceivable and unbearable. The smooth girl in the video, flanked by flawless products, betrays none of the complexity of the promise. The music gently orders you to be beautiful. The photos purport to be a sequence, yet a certain image scrambles the others. All hair, fat, and mass has collected in a new center, a face upon the torso with nipple eyes and navel mouth, gazes forlornly from beyond the pale of change's limits. The area where desire's moving target can't help but land. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Violet. And thanks again to Corina and Daniel, Mikael and Kimberly. And thanks to Ruth Azawa, Marianne Amiche, Alvin Lucier, Henry Rollins, Morrissey, and who am I missing? Who all made appearances today. We'll be back next week with a reading curated by Chia-Lun Chang. And so come on by if you've got the time. And otherwise, thanks everybody for being here and being wherever you are also. And let's throw all the mics open and say goodbye and hello and vice versa.
Goodbye, hello.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all
goodbye.
so much.
Thank you so much. That was
everybody.
amazing.
Thanks, everyone.
So much.
Thank you.
For the curation. Great readings today.